Stephen Chow's 60th birthday. Stephen Chow, contemporary Chinese performance culture. Stephen Chow, the king of Chinese comedy, celebrates his 60th birthday today, June 22nd. He is not only a myth in the Chinese film industry, but his influence has even spread all over the world. The plot and golden sentences in the film have accompanied many Hong Kong people to grow up. Stephen Chow entered the industry at the age of 18, until the costume drama The Final Combat in 1989 made him famous, and also started Stephen Chow's Mo Lei Tao culture, becoming part for everyday language. Now that he has been in the industry for 42 years, he has performed well as a director. With his talent and diligence, he has earned the status of an international superstar. The classic works are still memorable for many years. Stephen Chow is one of China's biggest superstars, starting out as a popular actor in many Hong Kong movies. Stephen Chow really gained superstardom internationally when he began directing and starring in his own films, using the style Mo Lei Tao, making it his own and becoming the representative face of this subculture. Stephen Chow has created an art form that quite literally pushes limits and has transformed not only the way the rest of the world views Chinese and Hong Kong film, but has also given the newest Hong Kong generations an identity in the face of a confusing past. Not only has Stephen Chow created a completely new avant-garde type of humor, but he also beautifully interweaves both Eastern and Western cultures together in his movies, and his humor is consequently able to mix with and entertain local, translocal, and international communities. To understand the essence of Mo Lei Tao, it is important to understand people that have come to know and love it. Hong Kong was colonized by Britain in the mid-19th century, and thought at the time the area was mostly an empty land with dispersed fishermen and their families. By the time the communist and nationalist uproar really began to take effect in the 20s, Chinese people began pouring in for the safety and security of Hong Kong that was quickly disappearing in China. As the war raged on in China and Hong Kong continued to develop socially and economically, people continued to leave their homes and reroute themselves in Hong Kong. Once the Mao Zedong and the Communist Party took over in 1949 and things began to settle down in mainland China, the immigration also calmed down in Hong Kong, and there was finally a generation born that could consider themselves from Hong Kong. However, this firstborn generation has trouble understanding to whom and where they belonged. With mainland China so close, and mostly being ethnically Han Chinese, there was no doubt that there were Chinese. But because they were living under British rule, with a British government, these people had a stronger sense of freedom and individual rights, unlike their communist counterpart. Not only that, but they were in constant confusion language-wise, because while mainland China mostly spoke Mandarin, Southern China and the majority of Hong Kong spoke Cantonese at home, and yet under British rule, there was a strong English influence that affected all of Hong Kong, even in their daily lives. There was a very obvious disconnect between Hong Kong and both China and Britain. Overall, there was ultimately a strong sense of confusion as to where their loyalties should lie and what language they should really consider their own. Hong Kong was experiencing a major lack of cultural identity on this land and between two worlds. Now, talk about Chow's Mo Lei Tao style. Stephen Chow's movie has become international hits, but he has actually done more than simply make his movies internationally successful. By making his movies comprehensible and understandable to the East and West, his Mo Lei Tao style is also able to represent the bridge that Hong Kong stands on between these two sides of the world, and reach out and offer a sense of guidance and reassurance to the new, somewhat lost generations of Hong Kong. Stephen Chow's performance lies between a conception of culture, a supporter, or a bastion of a cultural identity, and a conception of a culture of heterogeneity and collage. What is unique about Stephen Chow's intercultural performance is that he is not purposefully trying to fuse the cultures of East and West to educate members of the Eastern and Western worlds, but rather he is trying to point out the distinctions of mutual cultural existence that are found in Hong Kong in an effort to legitimize the already heterogeneous society and culture. However, support from the Hong Kong community will not be enough to pay for these high-quality, modern-day box office films. Stephen Chow, though making such a great contribution to Hong Kong's community and gaining so much popularity, undoubtedly needed something that would allow the world outside the island of Hong Kong to find interest in his movies as well, and therefore provide a stronger profit. The specificity of the humor in Mo Lei Tao was what made it so popular, and yet was also what could potentially restrict the popularity. The intercultural theme that is found in Mo Lei Tao represents a culture that was already alive in Hong Kong, and yet it needed something even more appealing and relatable to the West to really allow for international success. A major theme that brought this great universe hilarity and interest was martial arts. Stephen Chow was a huge fan of martial arts, even being an amateur martial arts himself, and Stephen Chow took the already present idea of slapstick comedy in Mo Lei Tao and further specified it to be martial arts. Stephen Chow has said that he has been majorly inspired by Bruce Lee and has even gone so far as to make one of his characters in Shaolin Soccer both look and act like Bruce Lee. The universal recognition of martial arts is able to keep the Asian factor within his movies, while at the same time allowing other viewers to recognize and enjoy the family theme. Shaolin Soccer is a great example of one of his films and of both the Mo Lei Tao style and the intercultural aspects that are littered within his films. In the movie, he stars as a poor martial artist who desperately wants to spread the word about Shaolin Kung Fu in a modern-day China that has all but forgotten martial arts. He meets up with a famous but retired soccer player and rounds up his friends that study Shaolin Kung Fu under the same master. Since their master has died, they have all taken up their jobs, from stockbrokers to supermarket workers. Since they have stopped practicing their Kung Fu, they have clearly lost meaning in life and are caught up in minor day-to-day activities. They agree to form soccer team, which is already a theme that is inclusive of the international community and inviting of a transnational market. The movie follows them as they try to learn how to play soccer, reconnect with Shaolin Kung Fu, and compete against other teams. Stephen Chow essentially guaranteed himself the attention of the international community, but has done it so tastefully and humorously that he has made international hits time and time again. As Stephen Chow and his Mo Lei Tao style grows, so do people of Hong Kong, and Stephen Chow will forever be a household name and a defining aspect of what and who Hong Kong is.